This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
We've learned so much from him in getting together in this podcast series about personal finance, saving money, credit card debt, all of that. And when he works with somebody, he puts them into different categories, different tracks. Ultimately, you want to be in the last track. It's actually you come first in the last track. It's a place where you want to be. It sounds bad, but it's not. That's where you want to end up. We're going to talk about that today and so much more. He is the man behind RMT Financial Coaching as we bring balance to your financial situation. Richard Toral is back with us. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me back. Chilly this morning.
Yeah. It's spring in New York. You'd never know it, but it is.
Yes, I know.
So we're going to get to the last track. We'll get to that last, obviously. But the tracks are basically categories that you put people in based on their financial situation, if you will, so that you can better support them. And we talked about this a while back. Can we do a reset on each of the tracks before we get to the last one?
Sure. So we have three tracks, right? The beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced. And yeah, the beginner is for anyone that has no savings. They have no emergency fund. They're in crisis mode. They have a lot of debt, and that's how they start off in wanting to get that financial freedom. The intermediate track is for people that might already have a 1 month savings for emergencies. They might have some debt or still have a lot of debt to pay off. And they just want to maximize all that, you know. And then the third is the wealth builder, the advanced track. So that's people that already have no debt. They have their 6 months of emergency fund set up. And they're just what's next, right? Let's build a wealth investments, or what can they invest in, 401ks and stuff like that. So that are the three initial tracks that people fall into. So I meet with them one-on-ones, do interviews to see where they land on and what track they fall into so that they can go further and advance from there.
Now, when you meet somebody, do you get all the information from them? Financial situation, their goals, all of that, and then you put them in the track based on that information?
Yes, yeah, we do a whole interview, like an intake interview. And we sit down and find out what their earnings are, what their total debt is, what their net worth is, what everything. We get the whole financial picture, what their goals are, what they want to do when they want to my services, right? To enlist in getting services. Obviously my coaching is free and we can walk them through all that, but sometimes when they need that heavy lifting, that's when they come to me and fall into these tracks for me to help them get through. Yeah, so depending on the full financial picture that they have, depending how much debt they have, depending how much savings they have, that's where they land on either their beginner, intermediate, and that's how they start off.
So we get to the last track, which is, I guess, the place where you want to be. What are some of the criteria for that?
So after these three, there's an alumni track. So it's called alumni because you graduate out of the three into this track. And this is the track where you want to end up in. It's low maintenance. So the alumni track is basically you have no debt, you're building your wealth. It's the next step from the advanced level, and everything's on autopilot. So I don't have too much to do with the clients. We just meet every other month. It's low maintenance. It's just keeping track of their goals, like if they have vacations, if they have savings they want to build up for a house down payment. And that prepares them to go out in life and have that financial freedom on their own without me. So that prepares them for a whole year to do everything autopilot, to maintain everything, have that maintenance, have that like mentality, that, money mindset, have that discipline set already. And then after a year, basically they're free. They're not my clients anymore. They're able to do this on their own. So that prepares them for life to do that financially on their own.
That doesn't mean you cut them off, I would imagine. Let's say, they get a question about something, something pops up, something changes in their life, they could reach out to you, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and we don't want people to fall back into debt, right? Or go backwards. So that's what the final track is for. The alumni track prepares them to like cement that discipline. But yeah, I mean, if people happen to fall back into debt or something happened and, they can definitely reach out and we can get them back on track.
Aside from all of your insight, the tips that you provide, you make it easy to understand. You also make your services accessible to pretty much anybody. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I have, I call it financial accessibility. Um, I knew I was one of them. I had, a lot of debt. I was making minimum wage. I knew it was hard to get out of the situation that I was in financially. So I know how hard it is to ask for help. I know how hard it is to look for help. And I also know it costs a lot. And from what I've seen, a lot of the coaching I see out there or financial like support, it's usually costly. It's very costly. So I also make it accessible for people who don't have enough or don't make enough to still get services and help and assistance. Um, I don't want income to be a barrier to anyone to be able to get help.
Mm.
And usually, the problem is income, right? Income usually becomes the problem of why they're in crisis mode. They're either not, the financial literacy might not be there, so they may need help with that. They may not be earning enough, or they're what they're spending on, they're not keeping track of, and they're not aware that they're just bleeding out. But that causes a lot of stress, and it's very stressful to not be earning enough, and then also to, how do I get out of here?
So many people are in that situation and don't know where to turn. It's like a wall every time and then the car breaks down. It's like, oh, how much now? $700 for that? I wasn't ready for that. Um, well, thank you for being there to help people along the way. Um, were you ever in that situation, like way back in the day, where you were, just looking at things going, paycheck to paycheck?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't want to date myself, but yeah, probably like maybe 20 years ago or so. I was working as a cashier. I was making minimum wage. I needed a car. I was living in New Jersey at the time, so I needed a car to get around and to work. I could not make my insurance premiums because the insurance was like $500 a month. It was expensive because I was young, and yeah, I couldn't afford it, and my insurance would lapse. So I got pulled over at one time when I didn't have insurance coverage and my car got impounded. And
Mm.
how do I get the car out of the impound? I don't make enough, but yeah, I've been there, and it's tough. I had my bike. I had to ride my bike to work because I was just on the brink of getting a full-time position and be able to make more hours and more money. So I knew that was my way out. Um, and then, it's hard. It's hard to be in a position where you know you're stuck. There's no way out, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, we've many of us been there, um, and you never know what's coming tomorrow. I do a lot of charitable work too, and I'll never forget this. Um, that somebody said, one of the people running an organization that we were doing some charitable work for, um, using radio, and he said, "You never know. We're all potentially one paycheck away from being homeless."
Yes. Yep.
And it sounds ridiculous, but you never know. So that's why it's so important to take care of your finances as best you can, so you have a little bit of padding, whatever it may be, just as that safety, that safety net and the peace of mind, and stress is a big thing on our bodies. So if you're stressing out about money, you're probably dealing with some medical symptoms, and you don't even know it's coming from the stress. Now you got to pay more because now you got co-pays and things like that, with
Yes.
doctors and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's a cycle. Anything else you want to share on the last track that maybe we didn't hit up?
Um, Last track. Yeah, that's just it prepares that's I don't want to keep people on forever, right? So that's not the goal. The goal is not to have a financial coach for the rest of your life. um the end goal is to be able to be self-sustainable, right? So you want to learn, so the financial literacy is there. You want to learn as much as you can. You build a discipline with each track helps you build that discipline by meeting with me either weekly, monthly, depending on what track you're on, or every other month, and that helps you build that discipline. It helps you build those hacks, to put things on autopilot, on auto pay, I mean, and therefore becomes like autopilot. So yeah, so each track is progressive. You upgrade to the next, level, so to speak. The more you're saving or the more debt you're getting rid of. Eventually, yeah, you want to land in the alumni track, which is the final one, and that prepares you to go out into the world and be self-sustainable. I don't want you to be my client for the rest of your life. Like that's not the end goal. But so we help you prepare so that you have a year, basically 6 months to a year to make that foundation, make cement those skills that you've learned and built, that discipline, and then you put it out there in the real world, and then you do it, and you have that mindset, the money mindset, and you're more relaxed and peaceful about your finances, and then you can do it on your own.
Would you say that all of us, short of the last track, we all need help? Unless you're in that, that category, we all could use some kind of financial fine tuning.
Yeah, and it's for some it might just be a few notions of like literacy, what the difference, differences between 401ks and IRA, stuff like that. That might improve their situation. Um, just knowing what Roths are, of the tax benefits,
Mm.
eh, any little thing can help them, with their situation. And if obviously they need more heavy lifting in terms of budgeting or they're in crisis mode, then yeah, it's just a matter of finding them where they are or meeting them where they are. There's no judgments. When we meet, I've been there. I can't judge. So there's no judgments about why you are in the situation you're in. It's just, how do we get you out now? What can we do? How do we change the situation?
I appreciate, first of all, your transparency, but also how you're not intimidating. Like I would feel very comfortable. Here's what I got going on. Here's my accounts. Here's where my challenges are. Now, where you might feel that with somebody else, where you might, even though they may not be, you might feel that they're judging you, and it's kind of uncomfortable. You just want to help people and care and have that compassion because you can relate. Can we go to an email that we got?
Sure.
Instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. You can reach us anytime, any questions. Amy in Clearwater, Florida checks in. She goes, first, I want to say that I know little about finances. She says, I have a CD. I usually renew for a year or 6 months based on the rate. If the rate is similar to a savings account, should I put that money in savings? So I guess
Yes.
what she's trying to say
So
there, the difference between the CD and the savings account, if they're similar rates, then I think they're like 3.8% on the a higher side right now. A lot of banks, I see those ads come up. I always get confused about compounded daily and all of that. So I don't even know if that comes into play. Maybe that's where her mind is at.
yeah, it's kind of like splitting hairs in a sense where, if your savings account is giving you 3.8% APY and your CD is doing 4%, um it's you may be talking like $80 to $100 at the end of the year, so like a 20 to $40 difference. So it's not that much. It's not kind of like a needle in a gauge, right? It doesn't move the needle that much.
Mm,
So, it's not you don't want to be chasing interest rates, especially when it's like point two to point, like a couple of points here and there. Now, if you don't have a high yield savings account, so for example, if your money is in checking, that's probably the worst thing you could do. If you keep all your money in checking, your checking account probably earns like 0.01%,
mm, mm.
you know. So that's where you do want to do that, like analyze, that analyzation. You want to analyze, okay, so I'm only getting 0.01 in my checking account, but my CD is saying 4 point. Or if I open up a high yield savings that's doing 3.8, let's go with that. Let definitely move your money out of checking and put it in a savings account.
Sure.
Um, the other thing you want to look at is how when do you need the money? If you're looking if you don't need the money like in the 6 months, a year, 2 years, if you have your emergency fund, because your emergency fund should be in a savings account, it should be very liquid. Your emergency fund should not be in a CD. So if you have your emergency fund set up and you have extra money to put in a CD, then that's good because you're earning a little more. And if you do have an emergency, you have some liquid cash that you can pull out and, not pay fees to stop the CD early. So, I mean, between 3.8 and 4, it's not that much of a needle mover. So either one is fine. It just depends how you don't want to tie up your money for a year, then maybe you should ha have it in your savings.
Well, I guess if you look at it this way, if it's 4.0% and that's the CD as opposed to the 3.8% and that's the savings account, and you're okay with your money not being liquid for a year, gravitate
Then
to the
go for it.
4.0.
Right.
Got a couple
Yeah.
of bucks more. What the heck not? You don't have to worry about it. How about this? We've never done this before. I've got I've got an envelope full of money. I'm handing you right now. I've got $15,000. I'm throwing it your way, Richard. I want to do something with it. What would you do with it?
I would find out if you have any credit card debts. I would find out if you have an emergency fund set up. I think those are the two big
Hmm.
questions to answer first. So if you want me to invest your $15,000 for you, the best way to invest that would be you letting me know if you have like $10,000 in credit card debt and you're paying like 28.9% interest on that because you can't pay it off. So if you win the lottery and you've got 15K and you want to invest it, I would say pay off your credit card debt first. That would be the biggest investment. You can save the 28.9 interest, whatever the interest rate is now.
Hmm.
It's close to 30%. And then if you have anything left, put it in your emergency fund. If you don't have an emergency fund yet, I would throw that at there first. Get 3 months in there. If your expenses are $5,000 a month, 15 grand, that's your emergency fund right there. So that's an investment, that's an insurance for you that if something goes wrong, you don't have to go into debt. You have your emergency fund for that. Now, if you already have no debt and you have your emergency fund, then I would say you have $15,000 that you want to invest in. I would probably say open up an IRA account if you haven't already, a Roth IRA.
Hmm.
Max it out. It's $7,500 for the year. So that's 75 right there. And then you have leftover money that you can either open up another bridge account, or I don't know if you're planning to buy a house, maybe that could be your starter money.
You mentioned bridge account a while back. What is that again?
So a bridge account is not a retirement account. So a retirement account, meaning a 401k or an IRA, you have to wait till you're 59 and a half to actually withdraw the funds and start enjoying that money that's in there.
Gotcha.
A bridge account bridges you from now until your retirement date. So if you need money before you retire that you can touch without being penalized, then that's where the bridge account is. It's just a traditional brokerage account, but it's not a retirement account.
How is it taxed?
It's taxed based on not what you're contributing. You're only being taxed on your gains if you sell those, and you're being taxed on any dividends that you're collecting. So every year you get a 1099 for any dividends you've received, you get taxed on that. And so for example, if you sell within a year, you get taxed like high tax rate, like your income tax. If you wait and sell it after a year, then that drops down to like 13%, I think it is taxable. So it's a cheaper tax. So always, always, always long term, always keep your investments more than a year. If you want to sell them, wait after a year and then you can sell them and you get taxed at a lower rate.
Wow. So you've mentioned Roth IRA before. Seems like that is, in many regards, the way to go.
Yes. I hear a lot that every 18-year-old should open up a Roth IRA as soon as they turn 18. That should be the first thing they do, because they have time on their side. They can deposit $20 a month and they can have 1 million by the time they retire, if not more.
Now you
Um,
tell me, Richard.
yeah,
Now
the older,
now.
yes. The older you wait, that means you have to. So if you're in your 30s, that means you have to put thousands of dollars a month to be able to get to that 1 million. So the longer you wait, the more you have to contribute. The earlier you start, the less you have to contribute.
What is your biggest financial regret? Now, everything's a learning experience, not being negative here. One that just popped in my head. You go first. Like, what is it? If you could do it again, uh, rewind and to a point and do something differently. What would you have done differently?
Yes. My biggest regret, I think, I guess, or that I would do differently is in my college or my high school years. In my high school years, I probably should have picked up a book, a self-help book about finances, personal finances. I'm not talking about like financials and the stock market and just personal finance. Um, I think that might have helped my life. I may not have picked a career that I wanted to back then, that I thought I wanted. Um, back then I was really good at math and I was good at science. So I thought I might become a mechanical engineer. And I was like, okay, let me do that, because I'm good at math. Um, I would have saved myself that trouble, that time. And I would have started investing a whole lot or earlier, and I probably would have been a millionaire by now.
Hmm.
I'm in my early 40s, mid 40s, somewhere in my 40s. So yeah, I definitely would have been a millionaire by now and having known all this way earlier.
I agree with you on all of that. And also, my aunt was a pretty much a trailblazer on Long Island for real estate back in the day in the 70s and 80s, and especially for a woman. And you didn't mess with her. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she did really well. And she'd always say to me, "You should really get your real estate license. You should really invest in real estate." And I'd be like, "I'm gonna hang out and party with my friends, whatever. I already have a job. I'm happy. Everything's good. I got a nice car. Blah blah blah." Boy, did I go wrong. Like, I
Yes.
should have listened to her. I should have listened to her. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we learned. I didn't have a passion for it. So it's like I didn't want to do things that I wasn't interested in. However, I looked at it the wrong way. I should have looked at it more of as an investment
And yes.
and than anything else. But we learn a lot from you, Richard. That's for sure. How do we find you? What's the best way to connect?
My email is richard at rmtfinancialcoaching.com. That's also my website, rmtfinancialcoaching.com. And I have a link tree / RMT Financial Coaching.
Thank you for all the insight and also the way you present it. It's easy to understand. A lot of times, if I listen to something, I watch a YouTube video, I'm like, I check out in the first couple of seconds. It's just like too deep, and you're like the average person's financial coach, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you for today. Looking forward next time we talk.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.